Hello, it is Felicia Starks with Felicia Starks Fitness, and I am here tonight specifically to give you 4 tips that will help you bust through any plateau. So, are you ready? And if you have been on a plateau for 2 weeks or more, I'm going to ask you to type 2, the number 2. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Because if you've been on a plateau for 2 weeks or more, again, I'm going to ask you to type the number 2. Because what we're going to be talking about is 4 tips to help you break through a plateau. But I want to make sure that that it's going to be helpful for you. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to type your 2 in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to keep going. So the 4 tips. So here's the deal. If you have been at your weight, and actually being at your weight for a particular amount of time does not mean that you're at a plateau. One sign that you're at a plateau is that your measurements, when you've taken your measurements are the same. Your weight may fluctuate. Your weight may go up and down, but if you're tracking your measurements and your measurements have pretty much stayed the same, even though you are that you're eating the same thing, then, and it's been 2 to 3 weeks, then you're possibly at a plateau. If it's more than 3 weeks, and if it's been more than 3 weeks, and you have been on a plateau and you have tried everything you know to do, then you're at a plateau. And so this is going to be some great information for you. So here's what happens. You started your new diet, or you started a new plan, and initially you were losing weight, and then for some reason, probably after 1 to 2 weeks, you noticed that things tapered off. So depending on how much weight you had to lose, it could have been a situation where you lost maybe 5 pounds the first week, and the second week you lost 2 pounds, and then the third week there was nothing, and the fourth week there was nothing, and like you've been doing the same thing and nothing has changed. So what has happened is that your body has adapted to your adjustment of your diet, and as your body adjusts, then it will come to a halt, because our bodies are always in preservation mode. Our body, even though you have your goals for fat loss, our body wants to preserve our existence. So if you have decreased your calories or the food that you are eating for a certain amount of time, then your body is going to just come to a straight halt. So if you have increased your workouts, maybe you've increased it, maybe you're doing 2 days, and you are eating clean, then if any of those situations are, if that's your current situation, just type P while we're, and then I'm just going to keep going. So, number 1 tip which in my opinion is where I always suggest that anyone that has said I've been in a plateau for like months, some people say they've been in a plateau for years, and that's really hard to imagine, but it happens. So the first tip is to start tracking your food, and it may seem very tedious, okay? But what happens is that in order for you to make sure that you're maintaining your calories that your body needs, you have to find out how much you're actually taking in. And as great as we are at estimating what we eat, we tend to underestimate what we eat and overestimate our exercise. And because of that, it's important to track your food. So if you've been on any of my broadcasts before, I've spoke before about, in order for you to lose weight, there has to be a caloric deficit, meaning you have to have a certain amount of calories that are in a bank per se on a daily basis in order for you to lose a certain amount of weight per week. So if you are taking in a little bite here and a little nibble here, and if you're doing different things and you're not tracking it, it's easy to either add in extra calories that you're not accounting for, or you could just be in a position where you're not even getting enough calories in. So in that case, then it's going back to tracking your food. And most of the times, if you're at a weight loss plateau, you are most likely not eating enough. I know it sounds crazy, and you probably be like, well, I already eat a lot of food. But depending on your weight, if you are eating, not unless your weight is like at 130 pounds, there's no reason for you to be eating like only a 1,500 calorie diet or 1,200 calorie. And what I'm finding is that for whatever reason, there are a lot of programs that will do what I call a cookie cutter. They'll put a cookie cutter plan together, or you might go on a website and find a plan, and that plan is going to recommend you start with 1,200 or 1,500 calories per day, and that's not enough calories for you a day. So in that case, you have to start tracking. How long do you need to start track? You need to start tracking as early as tomorrow. So if you're watching this on Wednesday, then you start tracking either today on Wednesday, or you start tracking on Thursday. So what about if you're losing more inches than pounds? Gail, that is a great question. That is a sign of fat loss, and that is a great thing. And if your inches are still coming down, that means that you are not at a plateau. So good job, Gail. So back to you tracking. You want to see exactly what you're actually eating, but the only way you can do that is to first start tracking. And I'm not saying you have to like write it down in a journal. You don't have to do that. Unless you like writing, that's fine. There are lots of different apps that you can use that you can input your food. It'll tell you, it'll give you it'll give you the breakdown of the calories, the macronutrients, and the micronutrients. So the one that I normally recommend is either there's MyFitnessPal is one that's widely known, and then there's also one called My Macros. And MyFitnessPal is widely known. It's free, and you can set up a free account, and it's probably going to suggest that you only eat 1,200 calories or 1,500 calories. Do not pay attention to that unless you are in that weight range. the key here is that you want to just start tracking 7, either a week or 2 weeks of everything you eat. Don't try to be selective about what you enter. In order, if your goal is to really break out of this plateau, then you have to be honest about what you're eating, what you're drinking. Anything that passes your lips, it needs to go into your log, and you can take a good look at where you are. And if you put in everything that you're eating for the day, I'll give you an example. If you weigh about, let me see. If you weigh, let's say you weigh 175 pounds, and I'll be able to give you a resource a little bit later on how you can figure out how many calories you need. But say you weigh 175 pounds, the minimum amount of calories you need a day would be 1750. Okay? So, and that's just basically taking your body weight times 10. Okay? So, back to tracking your food. You're going to do that for 14 days, 7 to 14 days, tracking everything. Do not be biased. Like, just either put it in there. Okay? Hold up. And so what happens is that sometimes we get accustomed to eating and we think, oh, well, I've been eating the same thing. And sometimes we don't always do the measurements right. We may be getting not enough. We might be getting too much. But the only way you are going to know is if you just really start tracking it. So, number 2, the second tip is to start a refeed. And you may have heard of a refeed before. I don't know. But basically, if you have been on a calorie restriction for any amount of time, when I say calorie restriction, I'll give an example. If you weigh 175 pounds and you've been eating about 1,200 calories a day, that's if you get it all in, then you are at a pretty big calorie restriction. And what happens when you do that for a long amount of time, our body adapts, and that's where the plateau sets in. Not only does our body adapt, but it's always going to be in preservation. It's trying to keep us alive, and it's going to, so anything that is going to hinder that, our body is going to go for survival before any of your goals of fat loss. So when that happens, then the food that you eat, if you're only eating 1,200 calories, and sometimes I find that the meals for the people that are not eating enough, they have either 1 to 2 meals a day. And so what happens is with those meals, your food is being stored as fat because your body is going to preserve what you eat for energy for later. But when it's stored as fat. That's not what you want. So you want to, in order to do the refeed, then you have to increase what you eat, and you're going to increase that maybe 2 to 3 days. 2 or 3 days. So you want to give your body more food over 2 to 3 days. Now, what a refeed is not your license to just go eat whatever, go to your local Golden Corral or wherever they have all you can eat. That's not what this is about. A refeed is a way for you to give your body more food in a controlled, I'm not going to say controlled environment, but to give your body more food at one time. And then what happens is that your body is going to trick your body into releasing more fat, because when your body has adapted to the lower calories, when you give it more food, then your body's like, okay, well, what's going on? So then it starts releasing fat, but it's almost kind of like you do, you may have heard of like a carb cycle. That's pretty much kind of what a refeed would be considered. So basically you're going to increase your food to trick your metabolism, so it doesn't adapt to the low calories. If you have been doing, like if your calories have been low for like 4 to 6 weeks, you want to do it, like I said, for 2 to 3 days. Monitor your intake, monitor your body weight changes. One good way to monitor how your body is adapting to the increased calories is to, before you start that refeed that morning, take some pictures. So the day before, like the morning of, you're going to take some pictures. Taking pictures in a shirt and your pants is not going to really help. This is where, even though it may be a little difficult for you to look at these pictures, depending on what shape you're in, the best way to see the differences would be to take pictures for ladies, like in your, like a sports bra, in your underwear, or it's like a bikini bottom or some boy shorts. And if it's a guy, you're going to take it just with your, either your shirt off or in like a A-line, like a wife beater tank in your underwear. And then after 3 days, then you're going to, as well as taking the pictures, you're going to also do measurements. And the measurements are going to see how your body is adjusting to those increased calories after the 3rd day. If you have been dieting on and off for a long time, like 4 to 6 months, you probably need, like, your body is probably kind of going crazy, and you maybe have heard of like having a metabolic what's the word, where basically your metabolism has just kind of tanked. So in order to let your body reset itself, you don't need to diet. Like, I would say taking a break from any kind of dieting, not eating crazy, but not eating with a restriction of like counting calories. So again, a refeed is to help reset your metabolism. You're doing it in a controlled situation. You're not doing it for a long period of time. What you want to do is to, take some measurements and some pictures before you start it and after, just to see how your body adapts. And it's something that I would recommend if you, every 4 weeks or so, if your goal is for fat loss and you have quite a bit of fat to lose, or you have a maybe like 30 pounds or whatever, then it's something that you can do every 4 to 6 weeks if you're on a low restriction. Thank you, Marinthia. If you're on a low calorie restriction, and it's basically to keep your body from adapting to the low calories, which leads to the plateau. So tip number 3 out of 4 is to play around with your macro ratios. What are macros? Macros are basically it's macronutrients is what the word is, but it is, if I was to put it, like, even though we have a certain amount, thank you, Gail, and if you will please hit the share button to share this broadcast so that any of your friends that are looking to lose weight can get some information as well. So back to the macros. It's a makeup of, yes, thank you, Varinthia. So the macros is going to be the makeup of protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And the 4th one that doesn't get talked about a lot, and we're not talking about it tonight, is alcohol. That is a macronutrient. It's kind of crazy that it is, but whatever the case is. So the 3rd tip, again, is to play with your macro ratios. You maybe have heard of this, maybe not. Now, since I have recommended, good, Gail, that's great. Since I've recommended that if you're at a plateau, that you start tracking your food, the other side of that, which is to go along with tip number 3, is to play with your macro ratios. Now, I do have a macro calculator on my website that actually lets you make adjustments to your macro calculation, to your ratios. I'm typing it in now. There we go. You can go there and you can find out what your macros, yes, thank you, Marinthia. Find out what your macros should be. But you want to tracking your calories and playing with your macros will definitely help you bust through a plateau. One good thing about it is that it gives you more, you can focus more on increasing your protein and your fiber. Now, one reason that you will definitely want to increase your protein is because it's going to help retain and grow your muscles. And when you have more protein, that leads to more fat loss. So, and then the other part of you really monitoring your protein and make sure you're getting enough protein on a daily basis is that protein is going to help you feel full. So it's going to help you control your appetite. Now, you may be saying, well, Felicia, how much protein should I have a day? In order to calculate that, here is one way you can take your goal weight. I don't know why I'm trying to type in. So take your goal weight or your current body weight, and I'm typing it in, but I'm saying current weight times either 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, or 1. Now, when we say your goal weight, I'm saying goal weight, short-term goal. If you weigh 300 pounds and your short-term goal weight would be, in that case, it's going to be within 20 pounds or so, or maybe about 20 pounds, not 200 pounds, because you still need to get a certain amount of protein in your body. So as far as the protein is very important to make sure that, so in this case, at a plateau, start tracking your food, play around with some refeeds every 4 to 6 weeks. And then number 3 is you want to play around with your macro ratios. Now, for the most part, if your goal is for fat loss, then you are going to kind of play around with having a higher carb day, meaning maybe your carbs are like 100. But then if your carbs are high, then your fat is going to be lower. And then if your carbs are low, then your fat is going to be higher. So you can play with those. That's called the refeed. I refer to the refeed as a carb cycle, but for the most part, there are some people that will carb cycle throughout the week. So what it may look like is playing with your ratios might be and here's the thing, your protein is going to remain the same every day. And as you lose weight, it's going to go down. But for the most part, if you're playing with your ratios, your protein is going to remain the same. What will change out of the fat and the carbohydrates is going to be you might have where one day you have low carb, and low carb might be, 60 or 50. That's really low, but depending on what your height and your weight and how active you are, that will determine all of that. But so if your carbs are low, then you could have your fat high, and then maybe you do that for 2 days, and then on so say Monday, you start with a low carb day. Tuesday, you have a low carb day. Wednesday, your carbs are high and your fat is low. And then the day after the high carb day is going to be low again. And you alternate back and forth. Here's what you don't want. You don't want to have 2 days where you have high carbs. Whenever you have a high carb day, you want to have it followed up with a low carb day. Hopefully this is not too over the top and you can go back and listen to it if it is. But the other thing that's important, because I talked about fiber, because the goal is to get at least 25 grams of fiber daily. Got to keep that stuff going out. So you're eating food, you want that food to get on through your system and not be holding stuff up. But the fiber is going to help you control your appetite. Protein is going to help you feel full. It's going to help retain your muscle. It's going to help your muscles grow. The fourth tip, if you're ready for tip number 4, type 4. If you're ready for the tip number 4, type 4. Gail, I'm going to answer your question. Your question is, I have a problem area in my lower back. Should I eat more protein to build muscle there? So that's a great question, Gail. You can build up the muscle in your back, but it is not going to get rid of the back fat if that's what you're talking about, if that's what you're referring to. The only way because you cannot target you can't target or spot treat fat, you have to attack the fat as a whole. So in that case, your goal is going to be complete body fat loss, and your body has several layers of fat, and as you lose fat, you're going to lose it in different places, and unfortunately you cannot determine where the fat is going to come off of. Now, you can build up muscle in your back, but in your lower back, if that's what you're talking about and you have some rolls there, it's going to be adjusting your food to support your fat loss goals. And as your body fat goes down, that problem area is going to go away on its own. But unfortunately, there's no way. Like, you can build up a little bit of muscle, but your lower back, there's not a lot of muscle back there anyway. You can, if it was like, so say you wanted to target your arms and you had some extra down here, you can build up your triceps. Yes, you can build a muscle there, and you can do a lot of tricep exercises and dips and all that kind of stuff. But you cannot only target your triceps or under your arms for fat loss unless you're gonna go do extreme surgery. That's the only way that fat is gonna go. And even sometimes when they remove the fat, just to shape it up, you might end up, it may not even look like you wanted it to look. I don't see any 4s. Are you guys ready for the 4th tip? Since I answered Gail's question, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going anyway. So the 4th tip is to add HIIT to your exercise program. What is HIIT? HIIT is high intensity intervals training. And basically if you are one, let me ask you a question. When you go to the gym, do you already know ahead of time what you're going to work on before you get there? If you do, type yes. Type Y. If you already know when you walk into the gym what you're going to work on, type Y. If you do not, and you just hop on the treadmill or you go onto the cardio equipment, type no. Good, Gail. All right. So if you are one in, this is when I say adding it to your program. So if you already have been working out, and even if you work out with a trainer or whatever, adding HIIT on the days, a HIIT exercise on the days that you don't workout with your trainer is going to, okay, cool. Hi, Nikisha. Adding a HIIT is going to help accelerate and break out of that plateau. Now, here's the thing. What some people may have heard of HIIT and may not even know why it's so effective or why it's going to help you break out of your plateau. It's basically short bursts of exercises that you do at a high intensity and you have limited rest. And normally your HIIT sessions are going to be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes long. Not a lot of time. But here's why HIIT is so important and why it is so effective in helping you accelerate your fat loss. Because your body needs more energy during your HIIT session. So, but it's not able to keep up with your you going from fast to slow. So because your body cannot keep up with the energy demands that is needed during your session, after the session is over, when I say session, I'm saying like you've gone either anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. You might even go 30 minutes depending on what you're doing, but I wouldn't say any longer than 25 to 30 minutes of a workout. But you're alternating. So what happens is that because your body cannot keep up with, because you're going fast and then you slow down, and then you go fast and then you slow down. If you are not exhausted after that first round, not exhausted, if you're not like hardly, if it's not hard for you to breathe after that first round, you need to bump it up and increase your intensity. But the reason that the HIIT is so effective is that your body is not able to keep up with the energy needs, so your body continues to burn fat hours after you finish that session. Why is that so important? Because you could go and get on a treadmill, and you could be there on the treadmill for 30 minutes to an hour, and if you're walking at a steady pace, like you're able to talk to somebody next to you, you're like watching TV in front of you, you're on your phone, you're just walking, right? You're still burning energy, you're still burning fat, but your body is not trying to keep up with you. So whatever pace you're on, your body is able to burn energy during that session, as opposed to the HIIT, you are burning afterwards. So you get more bang for your buck, per se, when you do a short intervals that requires high intensity. It's requiring more of your body, and so your body is like trying to keep up with it. If you have any kind of tracking device like a Fitbit or a Polar or a Garmin, and you track your workouts, you will see your heart rate is going up and down. And I know my Fitbit will tell me what my max was, but it's a great way for you to get more burn, less time. Okay, so again, the big difference in HIIT is that you burn fat after the session, but your normal exercises, you're going to burn fat just during your session. So some examples that you can use for HIIT. Now I'll give you some examples, like if you don't have any equipment, but if you have access to a gym or some kind of fitness facility, then you can use cycling, like using the bicycle, the treadmill. If you have a prowler access, there's a lot of the gyms around the country have a prowler where you're able to like push it, and you're not going to push it for a long distance, but you are normally taking off. You're taking off really fast, you're running with it. I know where we train, that prowler is tough because we're doing it outside on the road. It has indentions and different kind of, like, it's not easy, but most of the time the prowlers are inside, so you're pushing it, and you might be pushing it, I don't know, maybe 50 feet or 25 feet. using battle ropes. And those are the ropes where you're doing it, and you might do it for, if you have a trainer, you might do it for like, I don't know, 30 seconds, and you're doing it. Or it might be where you're doing, counting the repetitions. I know for us, when I'm doing the battle ropes, it's normally 25 to 30 reps. So and when I'm doing them, I'm doing it like where where we do it, rope slams. So we're, pushing it down. So every time it hits down, that's like a count. But that's a high intense cardio session. So the thing is that you want to do 15 to 45 seconds of work, rest no longer than 30 to 45 seconds. And the goal is for you to have high intensity. Like I said, if you're not out of breath after that first round, then you want to increase your intensity for the next round, because otherwise you're not going to get the benefits that you want. So, a HIIT exercise a workout that you can do at home is what I call a HIIT ladder. That's where you do push-ups, you do burpees, and then you do either squats or squat jumps. Now, it doesn't require any equipment for this, but what will happen is maybe you start out doing, start doing 20 push-ups, and you go all the way down to 1. Or maybe you start at 15 push-ups, then you do 15 burpees, then you do 15 squat jumps, and then you do 14, and you keep, and I call it a ladder because you're starting at 15, you go all the way to 1. And that probably would take you about 15 minutes depending on how much room you have and how, like, it's going to wear you out. But you do them back to back. So say you do, 15, 15, 15, take a 30-second break, and then you go 14, 14, 14. Easy, doesn't require any equipment, and that is a total body workout for real. Push-ups, working your chest. Burpees, you're working everything, your abs, and of course your squats are either squat jumps, or you're going to be working your lower half. So here, that was the final tip, but I do have a bonus. Your mindset. If you've hit a plateau, and if you've hit a plateau, the first thing is that you have to come to grips that something is off, and if you do nothing, that nothing is going to change. So a lot of times we have to set our ego aside because it's hard. Yes, Nikisha, because sometimes it's hard mentally to put out, because when you have a plateau, you feel like it's something you've done that has failed, and it's not. It's just that your body has decided, okay, this is enough of this low restriction. I need something else. So your body is going to preserve itself instead of helping you reach your goal. So the only way for you to get through the plateau is to follow these 4 steps. The first one, tracking everything that passes through your mouth and that you drink. Number 2 is going through a refeed every 4 to 6 weeks. Number 3 is playing around with your macros, your macro ratios. Number 4 is adding HIIT to your exercise program. They are very simple. This is something you can implement as starting tomorrow. But like I said, the 4th one is basically your mindset. If you don't believe it, if you don't believe that any of these steps that I told you are going to work, then that's going to be the first, it's not going to work for you, because you have already approached it that you don't need my advice, or that it's not going to work, and you tried something in the past. Again, I want to reiterate this. You've been at a plateau, whether it's been 2 weeks or whether it's been a whole year or 2 years. It's not your fault. It's just because you had lack of information. Now you have the information. You have the steps that I would recommend with every client that I work with. That's pretty much what we go through. And you have the steps. Set your ego aside. If you don't change anything, especially how you think about this process, nothing is going to change. So my advice is to, and the other thing, if you don't make a sacrifice, then don't expect to have a successful result. What is a sacrifice? It's going to be tedious. It's going to be probably inconvenient at times for you to track everything. But either you can, if you know what you're going to eat for the day, put it all in your tracker. If you add something, put it in there. If you don't eat everything, take it away, because at the end of the day, you need to be accurate as possible with where you are. And if you're consistently below your calories, you should not go below 500 calories of your requirement. So again, if you were the person that was at 175 pounds, and I said 1750 was that's your minimum. That's with a deficit. So I wouldn't recommend you going below 1600 calories. That would be the max. That would be really pushing it. But sorry about my dog barking. Again, going back to the sacrifice, make the sacrifice, track it for a minimum of a week. I would recommend 2 weeks just to kind of see where you are, because your weight is going to fluctuate. This is not the time for you to really have the scale out. The only time I would have the scale out is when you are really planning, when you do a refeed, so you can see where you were before, see where you were after, to see how your body adjusted. And then the last thing is that I'm going to ask for you to share this video with your friends. If you are watching this, especially you're probably watching this on my Felicia Stark's fitness page. So I'm going to ask that you go and click like, and just know that you don't have to do this alone. I share these 4 steps. You can actually do these by yourself. However, the other option is I have a challenge group that we're in week 5, and pretty much, I'm not going to say everyone, but there were at least over 50% of the people in the group were at a plateau, and they have since busted out of their plateau in a short amount of time. Many of them were within a week or 2, because it was just a matter of figuring out, okay, this is what I needed, this is where I am now, the plateau is over. So I have the challenge group. Everyone is doing, have seen some type of win in every challenge. The goal for this within the challenge was not just weight loss. It was basically a total mindset change, and the mindset change included changing the lifestyle, changing the mindset, and changing the nutrition, changing and giving some new options for workouts. With the combination of that, there have been a lot of results that have come from the challenge. So the reason I'm talking about the challenge is because there's going to be a challenge that's going to be coming up at the beginning of the year, and right now it is of course the registration is not open. However, you can go to FeliciaStarks.com/StarkNakedChallenge to get on the wait list, and that way you will be notified first, so that you will be able to get in on the challenge, and you don't have to do this by yourself. Again, the information that I gave you is you could go on Google and you can find that same information, and you can do all of this stuff yourself. Or when registration opens up, then you can work directly with me. Nakisha can tell you herself, she's in the group, that I'm very hands-on. I'm in the group. The goal is for you not to have to try to figure all this stuff out on your own. It's for you to you'll be able to work with me for 8 weeks to break through your plateau, completely change your mindset around how your restrictions, a lot of times we have restrictions with food, and we tend to be restrictive and think that we're eating clean, and the eating clean is not it. But again, I want to reiterate that if you're at a plateau, it is not your fault. It's most likely your body is just resisting what you're trying to do. And you have to, instead of forcing your body to make the changes, you have to coerce your body. And coercing is making a few changes a little bit at a time. So like, and I'm doing like double dutch. Like with double dutch, you don't just jump in. Like, you know, if you ever did double dutch and you got the ropes and the going, you don't just like hop in there. You got to wait for the opportunity. And then sometimes the rope may stop. And then when it stops, okay, you get it going again. And but you don't start, like, you don't just say, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore because it stopped. You have to keep going, make a few adjustments. And with double dutch, you kind of maybe you moving your feet a little bit different, and you come to a little rhythm. And if that rhythm, if you get off with your rhythm from the rope, then it's gonna stop again. But guess what? I've given you 4 steps to help you recover from that plateau, so you can like get on with your life, because you probably have followed this plan or this workout or this diet or whatever, and you're like, this does not work. I'm frustrated. I'm just gonna give up because I didn't giving up all my great food and all this kind of stuff. And it could be another thing. You maybe have restricted yourself so much that your body is like, girl, I'm not releasing nothing else until you give me some more food. So it could just be that you need some more food. But the first step is to start tracking your food. So thank you to Keisha for the feedback. Yes, yes, yes. Again, share this video at the bottom of the screen. You're going to hit the start. I mean, where you're, I think it says share. You're going to share it. And if you have gotten any results, or you've gotten, where you maybe have hit me up in my inbox and I shared something that was helpful to you, while you're over here, go ahead and leave a review, so that there's other people that when they start looking for me, because believe it or not, people are not just on Facebook. People will start Googling, and when they start Googling and looking for someone who is a fitness nutrition specialist, or they might Google me, and they start going to my page and they want to know, okay, who is she helping? Is she just talking a bunch of BS, or is she really helping people? And the only way that they know that I'm helping people, even if we've never, like, there hasn't been an exchange of coins, is to get your feedback. And this is a free broadcast that I'm doing. So as your appreciation for all this great information, leave a review. I would appreciate it. And again, share. And then don't forget to go to FeliciaStarks.com/Stark Naked Challenge if you want to get on the wait list for the next challenge, because again, the plateau, you can take these steps and get rid of your plateau. Another thing is you can get in a group of other amazing folks and get help one-on-one with me. All right, talk to you guys later. If you have any questions or something pops up later, then leave me a message. Or actually, not leave me a message, just type in the comments, and I will respond to your message as soon as I see it. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.